So I got three main points from Matt's presentation about establishing credibility. His first one really seemed to be based around knowledge, and whenever he said that, I was really expecting him to be talking about the speaker's knowledge itself and how intelligent the speaker is necessarily, like to establish credibility, just being a high intelligent individual. But it's really more about the knowledge of the audience and really knowing what kind of background they have in the subject that you're talking about, and just I think just general IQ of the audience. Yeah, just in general, for things like vocabulary to use and different things like that. So just really knowing your audience and knowing just what they would really understand, what things they would connect with, and different things like that. The second point really seemed to be setting expectations. This kind of goes along with knowledge. You need to have an expectation for your presentation, and you need to do that very early so that the audience will know what exactly you're going to talk about. Otherwise, it will be really hard for them to stay engaged when they don't know what point you're really trying to make and how long the presentation is going to be. And it's just so not only knowing the expectations of your audience, but also establishing the expectations early in the presentation was also a super big point that he was nailing home. And the third point seemed to be a connection, having a connection with your audience to get them invested. And he listed some different ways to do that. The first thing he talked about was speaking with real relevance, and the example that he used was things like complex data. So, like he was talking about with the bank, it just being that huge number, that's not something people aren't going to remember. The amount of money that goes through the bank every single day, they aren't going to remember that statistic. But when he framed it as that's a quarter of the entire world's money goes through this bank every single day, that's the stat that people are going to remember. He also talked about analogies as a really good way to build connection and invoking imagination. Similar to how I feel like whenever you read a book, you can kind of get that picture into your head and you imagine what the characters look like and what they're doing. If you can get something like that, where you can ask your audience to imagine scenario A, then you can get them a whole lot more invested. As he was saying, people would lean forward because it's going to get their brains to work, and it's going to get them much more connected into your presentation because you're asking them to interact, and that's much more engaging than just kind of being talked to and listening bullet points. Anyway, that's really what I got from the presentation, and I'm curious to see what the rest of the class thought.